I'm here in the village of Charleston, a charming, picturesque British village with a population of 500.
That's not Charleston, Keith. This is Charleston, South Carolina. A charming, picturesque village with a population of 120,000 in the United States.
What about this town, Boston? 120 miles north of London in England. Population, 35,000.
That's not Boston. This is the real Boston. Boston, Massachusetts, population 4 million.
What about this lovely little city, York? I suppose you Yankees have one of those too.
Yes, we do. Welcome to the new and improved York.
Now here's one you can't beat, London. That's London in England. Population, 8 million.
Okay, I'll give you that one.
Join us for a journey to different cities with the same name.
A new show comparing big American cities with the small British and European towns that share the same name.
We never should have let you win that little war, Melissa.
Actually, Keith, we beat you at 2 little wars.
What's in a name?
Coming soon to public television.
This was what the prison looked like when the British Admiralty bought it to house the prisoners of war.
So they bought the prison and they made many adaptations to it. One of them, interestingly, they took the doors off the cells.
Good for freedom of movement, but not so good for privacy. The doors survive in the local museum, all that remains of the prison's interior. The prisoners were separated. The enlisted men, mostly Finns, Swedes and a few Ireland Islanders, were put into the prison, 3 to a cell. But it was a different situation for the Russian officers.
The officers, very different case. They were billeted out amongst the gentry families of the town and surrounding areas, not just Lewis. They had freedom of movement, they had freedom of association, and they generally joined in, if you like, middle to gentry class society. So we have an account, for example, of the officers being very popular dancing partners at local balls because they could waltz so much better than Englishmen. There we go.
Not all the Russians lost themselves in the pleasures of the waltz. Many, like Georg.
He sat on the bank while the river still chattered onto him, a babbling procession of the best stories in the world. That was the excitement that Mole experienced in the story Wind in the Willows. And indeed, rivers large and small everywhere all have many stories to tell. The River Ouse that flows through Lewis is no different. In fact, for much of the town's history, it has played an important part. Today, the river carries nothing but pleasure craft. But for a long time, it was a busy, bustling port. About a mile upstream from here is the village of Hamsey. It sits on a triangle of land which splits the river as it curves down towards the town. Hamsey is barely a village today. A few houses with the 13th century church standing in splendid isolation. But Hamsey was a Saxon port in the pre-Norman era. Historians estimate that over 1,000 people lived here, populating a port that saw ships sail up the Ouse to trade goods. There is no doubt that the Normans had a bit to do with its demise. The area was handed over to a Norman lord. But the community was attacked by an enemy it couldn't stop. An army of rats, which disembarked from one of the visiting ships, went ashore and infected the village with bubonic plague, the Black Death.